What's good, everybody? What's going on, man? It's Stephen Qualls II, aka Mr. Qualified. It's your boy, and we are back for another episode in the second installation. Wow, the second installment. Forgive me, y'all. It's been a time getting this interview set up, but the second installment of the series Evolution of Dreams. I got goats and I got gems for y'all this entire series. Everybody that's been on already stamped. So when we revisit, it's just seeing what goats been up to, and that's no different than what we doing today. So please remind the people of who you are before we get started.
All right, what's good, y'all? Kearra here, aka Studio Low.
Yes, sir.
We here. Look, I'm a designer, I'm a creative, and I'm excited to catch up and see what all's been going on since last time we got to chat. So
Absolutely.
get to it.
Yeah, no, but don't see that. So that's why I went and did my research, because I knew you was gonna sell yourself short once again. Because
I figured we was gonna get into
no, we
it.
gonna get into it. We gonna get
yeah.
into it. But I feel like that's one of the biggest things that's kind of changed since the last time we talked is actually everything that encompasses all that you do now. But I guess we can start more so. We talked at the end of 2020. That was the last time that we talked. So ages ago. So just give a little snapshot of like some of the major things that have happened since then. Well, we can get into everything individually, but just kind of what's the quick synopsis of where you've been since then?
All right, so 2020, I was essentially a fresh graduate,
Right.
right out of Mizzou.
Right.
I was working on some products back then that since then have been released. A big project I was working on back then was the Revolution card deck.
Indeed.
That was, getting ready to get fired up back then. Since then, it has been released. It did pretty well. It's a project that still, stands by my side, and whenever I get the opportunity to share it with people, I still do that.
Yeah.
I moved around the States since then. I lived in Denver for a little bit as a creative director with a sports production company.
I forgot that you were in Denver for a while. Yeah.
I was in Denver for a little hot sec. Got to do some pretty cool work up there in the world of production and the world of creative direction, alongside being a designer as well. Hopped around from a few different types of agency types of jobs, and then working like in-house as a marketer and designer since then. So yeah, I've been a little bit of everywhere. Now I'm just really happy like where I am now creatively. Just continuing to do dope design work. Helped build a few products along the way as well. So yeah, it's been a lot. It's kind of tough to like give you a little elevator pitch when you've done so much in such a short time.
Right. Flex.
But I'm just grateful to still be able to be a creative for a living, because that is a blessing in itself.
Man, no, that's real. And honestly, I didn't even until you literally just said that, I didn't think about how tough the road for the creator has been since the last time we talked, because I think COVID opened the door for a lot of creatives, right? Like it put a lot of people in a space where if you had a talent, if you had something that you felt like you were good at, you had all the time in the world literally to hone in on that. But also if that turned into content creation for some folks, if that turned into whatever passion projects, like there was a boom of when like everybody was doing that, but then it also kind of oversaturated, if you will, the creative market. So kind of speaks to that, like with all the different things you were able to do, did you find it difficult to not stay relevant, but did you find it difficult to like separate yourself in this industry that was becoming oversaturated with so many people that are talented and kind of have some of the same skill sets? So like, how did you make yourself stand out?
Yeah, I think it kind of, for the most part, boils down to your passion. Because I would say, like, when I first had my first moments of just like, I don't know, going viral or just like popping off because of a project, it was kind of foreign. Like, it threw a lot of attention at me. It threw a lot of humbly like money in my pockets just off me being a creative. But I feel like with that comes a lot of pressure, because it's like, all right, now that you did this or whatever, now that you have those eyes on you, are you going to continue? And I feel like it's easy to kind of crumble under the pressure of, all right, what's next? but it's really important to, and I didn't know this back then, block out that noise. Like,
Yeah.
don't let that allow you to create more pressure on yourself. Just continue to create and be who you are, because that's when I have seen the most wins. Is just
Okay.
like authentically sticking to like, oh, what do I want to do? What do I want to create? And then I feel like it's also just about, do you enjoy this? And
Yeah.
I had to like, I have to have tunnel vision sometimes and really like focus on what I'm pouring out and not so much the hype around it. Because I think we also have a lot. We run into that trap of like trying to please the crowd and the people who we now have attention from. But it's really important to just realize like, do it for yourself first. And then
Yeah.
everything that you want will kind of like gravitate towards you as long as you put in that hard work out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of ways you can like take that
Right.
question, but it's like I just had to focus on like myself.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I completely get that. And that's real. I mean, creating, being a creative, and then whatever it is that you are creating, whether it's content, whether it's products for someone, and even in your case, like even in creative direction, I would imagine it's easy to be so focused on the customer or the audience that you can get lost in not, realizing why you're doing it. Like if
Yeah,
it makes you happy
absolutely.
to do it. Because for some people, I would imagine that sometimes, especially when it comes to going viral and things like that, like some people don't want that pressure. Some
Yeah,
people don't want
yeah.
that spotlight either. But how do you feel like you dealt with the pressures that kind of came with having your moments where you went viral, and have your moments where there's so many eyes on you, and you're in the spotlight? What do you feel like helped you kind of navigate the pressure well?
I think I just, in those moments, like I kind of lean into them because usually if you go viral, you have something to offer. So
Yeah.
it's not bad when you go viral because
Right.
now you have more eyes on whatever your product. So in those moments, like I lean into them. I think the kind of the struggle is like it'll dissolve. Like you're not always going to be, all eyes are not always going to be on you. So I
Right.
think you have to not depend on it. Like
Okay.
accept them for the moments that they are, accept attention for the positives that they bring, but you have to realize that attention won't last forever. So you have to learn how to be without it, and not even be without it. You have to learn how to keep a level head yourself. Like
Okay.
I just try to focus on like not getting too high and not getting too low,
Yeah.
because I know viral moments don't last forever. So just I think you really have to be like centered and grounded with yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that, and
Yeah.
that makes sense. I know something that we talked about for a decent minute in our last conversation was critiques, and how I think at that time it was more so the critiques of like in school, like whether it was high school or college, it was kind of critiques around projects in that regard. But with everything that you've done since that time, you've been, it's been a much bigger platform. It's been, bigger, more, I'm not sure what the correct word would be, but these spaces are different now. The work is of
Really
higher
evolved.
value,
Yeah.
if you want to even, use that. Do you have the same kind of response to critiques now, or how has it changed over the last few years?
Yeah. I think it's kind of like what you said. Like the critique is different. Like
Okay.
now there's financial risk within these
Yeah,
critiques.
yeah, yeah.
So I have different types of client nowadays. Sometimes I'm serving like a client team, so I don't even know the client personally.
Gotcha.
Really,
Yeah.
it's just all money. So it's not, even more so now. It's really not personal. Like
Okay.
it's like if you don't like, if the client doesn't like what you're producing, you have to get together.
Yeah. Facts.
Because you costing the company big, large amounts of money.
Yeah.
So I think even more so now, I learned to not take it personal. Like a critique on my work is not a critique on me as a human or me as a person. It's, oh, maybe we just weren't looking for this, or maybe we
Right.
just don't like what you're creating. So I can either take it personally or I can kind of detach from it, pivot, and I think that's the biggest thing, not growing too attached to my work. Because a lot of times
Yeah.
in certain client situations, what you create first won't be what it is.
Yeah.
And then if on the side of just like products and things that I create on my own, not unless it's terrible. 9 times out of 10, I know I have an eye, and I know if I like it, most of the times the people will like it.
Okay.
So I don't worry about critique too much of my personal products because I know I'm pouring a lot into it, and whoever should like it is going to like it. So I'm not in the I don't feel pressure to like force anybody to like anything that I do. And I think that's another big space thing about the space that I'm in. I don't really feel the need to win people over anymore. And 5 years ago, I maybe would have like that.
Okay.
I was more so focused on like proving myself, but at this point, I'm really just not. I'm just focused on like continuing to be a learner in the spaces that I'm in, and just continue to be a sponge and grow. So, yeah.
No, I think that's huge. If you don't mind, speak a little bit more to how big that evolution is, because like you said, I think you get to a certain point where even if it's subconscious, you want to win people over because you want people to like acknowledge the work you're doing. You kind of want it to be known that, okay, like what I'm doing is appreciated or respected or whatever the case may be. But there does come a point where it's not so much about that, especially once you've experienced that acknowledgement, or that respect, if you will. So yeah, just speak a little bit more to like why that evolution and why getting to a place where it's not for that and just continuing to be a learner is so key.
Yeah, so I've been like creating for others since I learned how to be a designer. So I feel like early on in my creative career, that was the goal. Like I had to I had to like show people who I am. I had to show people that I bring value to their personal projects or to client projects. And then you also have to meet more people. So when you're meeting those new people, you know naturally just are pitching yourself.
Yeah.
But I feel like at a certain point that kind of gets in the way of the work. So I've had several projects within my career that just didn't pan out right, and it was because I was too focused on proving to them that I was who I think I am.
Okay.
So it just got in the way of just like the natural flow of creativity, the natural flow of relationships.
Okay.
And even just like on the career journey, you got to put a lot of time into your resume. You got to put a lot of time into your portfolio. So
Yeah.
you want people to see that these things are great. But even with career, like I had to, and I think I'm just getting to a space where I feel like this while working as a professional creative of like, y'all brought me here for a reason. So now that I have this role, I don't need to waste energy with trying to prove to you that I qualify for this role, but I just need to focus my time on what value am I bringing, and am I communicating who I think I am well, and not so much, I'm trying to win these people over, because they know you're great. That's why you're there. So you owe it to yourself to just focus on why you're there and do the hard work.
Yeah.
So professionally, I'm not really worried about winning people over. I'm just worried about winning myself over and continuing to prove myself that I know who I am and just be great.
Yeah.
And not to get too religious, but if God has blessed me with this, then it's kind of a slap in his face for me to continue to sit there and question myself when I know he put me in these rooms for a reason. So just step up to the challenge and be great. So
Yeah. Nah, that is extremely real. And I think that there are a lot of people, especially like I want to be specific to creatives because I feel like it's like with that, because of the work that you're doing, because so much of it is passion filled from like it's something internal that's coming from you. I think it becomes very difficult for a lot of creatives to separate and have that kind of not discernment, but be able to disconnect the idea that like you said, the work it's a representation of me and my skill, but it doesn't define me. And if somebody doesn't like it or if it doesn't work for a certain client, it doesn't speak to me not being not worthy, but like me not being talented or skilled or whatever the case may be. It just may not be the right fit. But in your answer, reaching that place where like they brought you here for a reason, that sounds like it speaks more to confidence. And that was something else that we talked about in our last conversation as well. And at the time we were talking about confidence from the standpoint of I feel like, at least like for you back then, like you were starting to gain it, and it was a confidence in what was new at the time.
Yeah.
But how has confidence been for you as you've been navigating like all the different types of spaces that you've been in since that time, and even getting to where you are now, where you speak about where you are professionally? What does confidence look or feel different to you now, or do you have a different approach or kind of viewpoint of what confidence should look like now, or is it still the same?
I think that it has evolved with different types of experiences and like you said, being able to exist in various types of spaces, but just as a creative. Like
Okay.
I've worked in several different fields. Now I worked in sports, I worked in government, I worked in like the medical space as a designer. I have a wide range of experience thus far, and I think that definitely helps to build confidence because it's like, honestly, I've always had it internally, but now like even externally, like I can look at a certain type of project and be like, oh, I can figure that out.
Okay.
So I think being able to have the experience definitely helps to build your confidence. But then just like the way I enter things creatively now, I have less doubt for myself, and I don't know, I feel like it's earned confidence because of course, like back then, even like it was kind of more of a mindset. It's like you didn't really earn the confidence that you have. Yes, you
Yeah.
can believe in yourself, but it's a different type of confidence when you've actually experienced the things and actually have had the opportunity to put the work in.
Yeah.
So I think now it's just like I've seen proof of concept work a lot.
Okay.
So now it's just like, all right, I know I can do it because I've done it.
Right.
So it's just a different type of confidence, I think.
No, that's real. And I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's a really good point. The idea that like that earned confidence, I think that's like really interesting, because belief and faith in yourself is one thing, but
Yeah.
I think there's a certain aspect and layer of confidence that comes from, like you said, like what you actually accomplish. And once you accomplish and do something, and once you kind of understand your bandwidth for figuring things out, there's a certain confidence that comes with things that are familiar, or even if certain aspects of it are scattered, the confidence to know like, oh, well, that's just bringing A from here and B from here, and we can make C and go about our business. So
Yeah.
I definitely understand that being earned. I think that makes a lot of sense. That's the idea of earned confidence is really dope.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we, as young professionals, we kind of like don't think we need to do sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's like you can start your career and you could be talented, but you could have like a big head,
Yeah.
like thinking that you've just done it all and you really haven't.
Right.
And I think I've always been super humble, so I've never been in that space really. It just kind of like showed up differently, just like in my journey. But you definitely have to like have the experience, and that's just, you can't cheat experience. I think I've learned that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely real.
Yeah.
Let's dive in a little bit to some of those different like sectors, let's call it, that you've been able to be in the space of. So talk about being in the non-profit world.
Yeah.
Like how was that? What was that experience like?
It was actually pretty dope. Like, it wasn't, of course, my goal to be in the nonprofit space because, as a designer, when you coming out of college, you be like, all right, I need to go straight to this agency,
Right.
and I need to get to the top at the agency and then stay at the agency.
Yeah.
But when I graduated in 2020, of course, COVID was raging. So it just didn't pan out how I wanted it to.
Yeah.
So I ended up back in Kansas City working with a nonprofit called Canby's Markets.
Okay.
And it's a nonprofit that actually served the community that I grew up in. They battle food insecurity within
Okay.
Kansas City, so just making sure like certain areas of the town have like fresh produce and things like that. And it was cool to work for a nonprofit because I got to kind of just, be like a creative Swiss Army knife, getting to do a lot of things, getting to do merch, social media, stuff like that. And it gave me a chance to let even the creative things I had going on outside of their mission to thrive. Like I got to do the cards while I was on staff with them. They bought some from me. They helped me promote them a lot, and really just kind of like gain that confidence as an entrepreneur while also helping them with their mission. So yeah, it was dope. I met a lot of dope people that even still help me out with my career growth to this day. So it was a cool experience.
No, that's real. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with the nonprofit world. So is it legitimately like you are working for an organization where the work that y'all do, it may bring in money, but that's not money that correlates to how y'all get paid, or like how exactly is the nonprofit world set up?
So a lot of the way that just nonprofits are funded is through grants.
Okay.
So it's a lot. They pour a lot of like their resources into like having a good grant writer, making sure they are well connected in the community. So those larger grants will come to them.
Okay.
And a lot of times, people are paid through direct grants. I'm not too sure of the exact financials because I was just trying to create stuff.
Sure.
But no, it's just like the work that you do direct, you can see it directly. So
Okay.
if one of the projects I had with them was building out the brand for one of their fundraising campaigns.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool. Like after creating that stuff, I could see the dollars start to, roll
Okay.
in, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
of course those funds that were fundraised go back into the programs that they have, or even back into, like certain people's salaries and things like that. So, yeah, it's a grassroots organization, so it's just dope to see them kind of like grow from the ground up. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's super real.
yeah,
Something else that you've done, you are a co-founder.
yes,
You
yeah,
are a co-founder now.
yes,
So
yes,
talk about that journey, and is it Ken Seltzer?
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes,
Talk
yes, yes.
about that, how that came to be,
Yeah.
essentially.
So, of course, I stepped into the world of products with my first product, the Revolution card deck. That taught me just like a lot about, distribution, a lot about order fulfillment, and really just how to like get a physical product from, you to the client. So after taking all those learnings, I got a partner actually who I've been just like helping him build his endeavors. He has a tech company, a nightlife tech company,
Okay.
and just through that relationship, he had the idea of creating one of the first black-owned hard seltzer on
Okay.
the market. Again, through just like being connected, we found another partner who already has a brewery in Kansas City,
Okay.
and with those three things, him really being really into business, him already having the brewery, and then me being just like a designer and somebody who has built products, it's kind of like the perfect setup. And we just dived into it, like building out the brand, building out the designs, really just like getting hype behind this product. Launched, I think, like 2 years ago in March
Okay.
now.
Sound
Yeah,
about right.
and it's just been, continuing to spread since then. It's in like over 30 stores here locally.
Nice.
And of course, working to expand that as well, and just continue to build the brand. So it's been really cool to see, just like the growth of it. If you're in Kansas City, make sure you stop by and get you a Ken Seltzer. You can check out all the locations on kenseltzer.com. So yeah, it's been cool to just help build the thing from the ground up. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what type of pride comes with doing something like that? And is being a co-founder or founder, is it something you find yourself speaking to a lot, or is it something you find yourself being able to walk in like with ease, or is it still kind of like, I don't know, like, is it still one of them things where like you ain't gotta acknowledge co-founder, like not so much not acknowledging the work, but
Yeah,
more
yeah,
so the
yeah.
idea of, are you cool with like walking in like, no, I'm a co-founder. Like if somebody walk around and call me, and say that, or refer to me as some type of, if they make it a statement, they make it a
Yeah.
thing, are you comfortable with that, or are you still kind of like, I mean, it was just this thing I did, or are you confidently walking in like, nah, like I co-founded this brand, that's the first black thing like that? Is that something you walking in with confidence easily now?
Yeah, I think just being transparent, I think I used to want to hold the title a little bit harder than I do now. Like, of course, I've always been like entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
so that was always a part of the goal, was to build something, to be co-founder or founder of something. But I think since then I've kind of stepped back from that co-founder title because I think I'm at a stage in my career where I don't want the title to be the defining thing for anything that I do. Like, I don't want, even with the new role that I'm in, I don't want the title of that role to dictate how I feel about myself or how people feel about me.
Yeah.
So I'm more so focused on just actually doing the work than saying, hey, I'm a co-founder.
Okay.
Like if you bring up the product, or if I'm just talking about what I've done, I'll mention it, but I'm not leading with, hey, I'm a co-founder, so that is why I should be in whatever room. I'm more
Gotcha.
so focused on, hey, I'm gonna do the work, and then I'll tell you that I did the work, or you'll see the work while I'm doing the work, and then I'll tell you, oh, because I'm a co-founder.
Type deal, like just on the back end.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
'cause
maybe that'll help it make sense, but
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
don't peep it, that's cool.
That's
You know?
that's on you.
Yeah.
Cause I don't know. I think we live in this time of just like everybody's so braggy, like, and
Yeah.
everybody's so
Yeah.
hype about like titles and whatever. But I love to be reaffirmed by people who can actually impact my life, or by people who I feel like, I don't know. I'm just not so excited about like the attention nowadays unless it's impactful
That's
attention
real.
for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not really interested in like winning people over nowadays. I just want to make sure that whatever space I am, I'm bringing what I should bring forth, and then whatever I'm supposed to get in return will come to me. So yeah.
That's real. That's
Yeah,
real.
yeah,
Love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Love that.
Not that
Love
I'm
that.
not proud of, being a co-founder, but it's just not what I'm screaming to the rooftops right now. So, yeah.
Yeah. Let me know if I got this right. Would you say graphic designer was the first step? Like if that was the first thing you called yourself, it was graphic designer. Then would you say visualizer or animator is in there somewhere, or is that in line with graphic designer?
I think that's in line with graphic design
Okay.
because within the scope of being a graphic designer, you could do animation,
Gotcha.
you could do web design, you can do branding, you can do whatever. I would think the level up from being a graphic designer would to then be a creative director.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, because that's where I was going. So, with that under your belt now, definitely talk a little bit about what it means to you to be a creative director. But I'm also really interested in how you went about trying to stay versatile as an artist in general, as a creative in general.
Yeah, I think I've always been versatile. Like even with just like when you're concepting to be a designer, there's a lot of things that goes into that fall under the umbrella of being a creative director, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you
yeah.
have to figure out again the concept, you have to figure out the vibe for whatever you do. You have to pull in pieces that like make it able to happen.
Yeah.
Like an example would be like with the cards I created. You got to be a designer. You got to be a creative director when you're pulling in like a printer, when you're pulling in ways to market the product, and
Yeah.
then when you're like fulfilling the product. All of that is kind of you being a director of things. So I think that's just what naturally comes with me as a creative is I like to have my hands on a lot of pieces of the project. So my track from designer to creative director is already kind of like built in me. So I just have to. One thing about my journey is I just had to learn how to like channel that and have to again be confident within that because you already have the taste and the ability to see things come to fruition. You just have to like trust that you can bring that to whatever other team you're on. So yeah, I think the biggest thing for just like my growth as a designer to creative director was just like trusting in myself a little bit more to prove that I can do all of these things. So
That's real. Do you feel like the responsibility changes, or is it just a different type or different?
yeah,
Okay.
I think the responsibility changes. Again, it's very like it varies within like whoever you're working for, or even if you work for yourself,
Yeah.
like the clients that you work for. You just have to like be able to like step in and say, hey, I can do all of these things, and then I feel like the responsibility will naturally like shift for you. You'll see yourself going from just being the designer on whatever project to now, okay, now I'm leading this thing. Now I'm responsible with the entire concept and making sure it actually comes to life from start to finish. Because
Okay.
when I was associate creative director out in Denver with a production company, it my role kind of transitioned from like, okay, just being the designer to, okay, now you have to produce the whole shoot. Like
Okay.
you're responsible for bringing in the talent and just like, deciphering like who we want to be the star of this thing. You're
Okay.
responsible for writing the script for the production, or bringing in somebody to write the script. You're responsible for being on set and directing the thing as well. So yeah, it was definitely something that just like widened the scope for me of like what I could do creatively.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and it's interesting. You hear the title creative director, and it's always interesting to me how people define it, and how they describe what all it entails. Because I feel like you get a lot of different answers, but I feel like at least your answer for me simplified it, because in essence, at least understanding how it's just wearing a lot of different hats at once helps kind of really understand the importance of having that for a lot of brands, and with marketing being so almost I mean, your business isn't going anywhere without
Yeah.
some type of creative direction, and that's any industry. Like, we've gotten to a
Yeah.
point where even if you're in what's considered to be the most boring or mundane industry, you probably gonna want some form of creative direction to
Yeah.
help with
It's
making
vital.
your marketing like appeal to not even just your target audience, but just the world at large now, because everybody, gets their access, and everybody is tapping into things in such different ways that
Yeah.
I don't know. You got to be tapped in on the creative director
Yeah.
side for sure.
Everybody needs a creative director.
For sure.
And even if like your creative director is not a designer, it's essentially somebody who can keep the ball rolling
Yeah.
of your marketing and of your creativity. So yeah, it's a lot of people, not no jabs at nobody, but a lot of people be like, I'm a creative director, and don't be directing no creativity.
They just be out there moving their hands.
They
They
just
ain't.
they just like stuff. But it's like, nah, it's like you really gotta know how to know processes and know how to like get things done. So
That's real.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
real.
yeah.
Well, with that, as a creative director, what would you say are your top 3 to 5, whichever, whatever your list is? What are your top like 3 to 5 like keys or tips for branding?
Just stay aware, like really keep your eyes open to like what's out there, because a lot of times creativity is not reinventing the wheel, is learning how to find dope inspiration and then putting your own twist to it. So definitely stay aware. I had another one. Don't be afraid to try new things. Again, with that not reinventing the wheel, you also have to learn how to like just reinvent your vision to things. So don't be afraid to try new things. And always practice. I think something that I kind of fell into on my creative journey is like not challenging myself, but just like solely just for the purposes of like challenging yourself.
Yeah.
Like you want to stay sharp, because I don't know, something I've been really focused on this year is like you are what you intake. So if you're not studying your craft, if you're not, again, finding ways to be inspired, then you'll just keep creating the same thing. And you won't have anything new to bring to clients. You won't have nothing new to bring to the world if you're not always trying to like, learn and really absorb, the world. So, yeah.
Yeah. Nah, that's real. That makes me think though. Do you still get creative blocks?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I get creative block, I just don't create. I just kind of like, watch a little TV. Vibe out, take a little walk, go take the dog on a walk. So yeah, I don't know. I don't overwork, if that makes sense. Like, if it ain't there, then it's just not there. So I just live life more. So
That's real,
yeah.
and I've learned that too. For me, a lot of it comes down to scheduling, right? So a lot of, for me, like with the content I created, I want to be as consistent as possible, and I want to be. I don't want to be on autopilot, but I want to be consistent enough to where whenever people want to jump in or hop on the train, there's a schedule or a system that's easy to follow and navigate once they get there. But that's difficult because, you know, life be lifing, and
No.
you got work and you
It
got
sure
other
do.
stuff happening. So it ain't a guarantee I'm gonna be able to record on the same day. It ain't a
Yeah.
guarantee I'm gonna be able to edit on a day where I can get it out to release it on the day that I want to be the standard release day. So I find myself more recently kind of like, let's push back today. Okay. Like
It's okay.
I have a quick moment of like, dang, that's really not what I wanted, or I don't want this to be a pattern. But then I very quickly get to a point where I'm like, I think I had to remind myself that like consistency isn't solely defined by the exact same
Yeah.
routine. Like I'm still consistently releasing content, even if one week it drop on Wednesday, another week it drop on Thursday, you know, another week it drop on Tuesday. Like what if that's just how it happens because of scheduling, then so be it. But it's getting put out. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes I got caught up in how I thought other people were perceiving things, or how I thought other people were tapping into things, or what was making it difficult for them to tap into things, that it really made me put more pressure on myself, as if like I needed to be doing something more to like pull people in. But it kind of just speaks to a lot of what you were saying earlier, where it's like it ain't for them. Like it's for them,
Yeah.
but like it's there. So their end of the bargain is, if they're going to engage with the content, like it's there for them to engage with, and it shouldn't. I can't be worried about, well, because I didn't release on the regular release day,
Yeah.
or it didn't come out on this schedule, and that's why they didn't engage, and now that's my fault or my problem or something I did wrong. So yeah, no, that's very real. I
Yeah.
definitely.
I think that's like what you just said is like learning how to not operate through that sense of like perfectionism. Like
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't have to show up every day if it negatively impacts me. Like
Yeah.
I have to work with myself to still show up, but as much as I can. Like if I
Yeah.
can't drop every Saturday, then I just can't drop every Saturday. And you have to just give yourself a little more grace on like the ways you are showing up, and not
Yeah.
the fact that I wasn't perfect in showing up. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's real.
yeah,
One other thing you mentioned from the last interview, before we get into revisiting that final question I got to ask everybody, you talked about work-life balance, even back then, and that was still at a time where, like you had kind of spoke to, like within COVID, like, you know, finding, you know, work after graduation was difficult. So you weren't even really like deeply in the true like, you know, workforce yet,
yeah.
having a work-life balance. But now, you know, a few years removed from that, how have you been able to keep that work-life balance a priority in the work that you do now, especially with the demands that come with being in that, you know, creative space, and especially holding a title as a creative director, you know, for some of the things you worked on?
Yeah, I think just since last time we talked, I had a few moments where I kind of quote unquote failed with having a good work life balance. Like when you are hungry, sometimes you'll
Yeah.
like when you just anxious to like get dope shit done,
Yeah.
you'll neglect yourself. And I've had several moments where that neglect led me to have tough mental times, like
Yeah.
panic attacks. A lot of the reason though I wasn't in Denver for a long time, like I was only there for a year, is because I did not have a good balance of caring for myself alongside trying to like fulfill this role.
Yeah.
So I had a few moments where I hit rock bottom, and it's because I was putting too much pressure on myself, again with the perfectionism, to show up, to not listen to my body, to not know when I need to really like hit pause. And I think biggest lessons that I have learned from that is to put myself first. Like
Yeah.
we love what we do, we love being a creative, but you gotta really listen to yourself and realize what you need to fill your cup back up. Like you can't pour from an empty cup. And a lot of times when I did hit rock bottom was because I was trying to pour from an empty cup and not taking the time to actually like be with myself and just analyze what I need.
Yeah.
So I I don't know, it just builds this certain type of like resilience within you, and you have to be confident in your no, if that makes sense. Like you
Very much
gotta
so. Yeah, yeah.
know how to let people down sometimes because it benefits you. So
Yeah.
I would say like through all those journeys, my work, the way I try to manage my work-life balance now is to just compartmentalize a little bit more. Like I'm not always thinking about work. If if I have certain hours to work at 5 o'clock, I'm not thinking about
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm focused on my friends, focused on going out, focused on having fun.
Yeah.
So I just try to like make sure like I'm shutting things off when I need to,
Okay.
and just trying to enjoy life alongside working hard.
Yeah.
And I'm just honestly, transparently, just getting into a space again in the new year where I'm like, all right, it's time to like work. Like I'm still have fun, but it is time to like work hard. And then who's to know? Like in 4 months, I'll be like, all right, now I'm just let up on,
Yeah.
working, like really diving in each day, and I'm like, chill a little bit harder. I'm gonna enjoy myself a little bit harder. So I think it's learning like what seasons are in life. And sometimes it's time
Yeah.
to crank down and work hard, and then sometimes it's, let yourself chill a little bit harder. So I think that's one of the biggest lessons I learned is just seasons.
Yeah. No, I was as you were talking, I was literally just thinking like I think as we get older and as you get more experience, you start to understand how important seasons are and the fact that seasons are going to kind of happen naturally anyway.
Yeah.
So if you kind of
Let
let
'em.
them, yeah, if you let them happen, it can be a little bit easier than you kind of force it to be a situation where you pushed into it happen and then you
Yeah.
gotta adjust to that. But yeah, like it's definitely those moments where yeah, for these next 3 months, and a lot of times it's just preparation. Like
Yeah,
if I'm locking
honestly.
in for 3 months, I'm trying to set myself up for six.
Yeah,
So then on the back
yeah.
half of that 6 month stretch, I can chill,
Chill,
and then
yeah.
when I know it's time to ramp up and prepare for the next, whatever, timeline, is kind of looking at it from that perspective. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, you definitely took the words out of my mouth with that one. But last thing, and it's funny because you've kind of spoken to it throughout this interview, but when you answered the question last time, what made you qualified, you talked about adaptability. And like I said, I think, within everything you've talked about, it's been a continuation of how you've been able to adapt to every situation you've been in and just take what you can from those experiences and the things you learned and all of that. What is like, would you answer the question the same way in terms of adaptability, or would you add something else to it, or would it be different?
I think overall, just adaptability is something that I'll always need as a designer, as a creative director, and just as a creative that wants to continue and flourish. You have to be adaptable to clients. You have to be adaptable to projects. So that's something that I'll always continue to nurture. But I think at this point in my career, in my life, I'm qualified just cause, like, like I've already done the work, and then aside from the work, I just know what I bring to situations. I know what I bring to the table in life, professionally and personally. So, I think I've earned the ease of just being just to be, and just like not feeling so pressed on like earning my stripes and earning my worthiness, but knowing that it's already there just cause.
Yeah.
So I think that I don't know that gives you a little bit of room to breathe and to just naturally flow if you think in that perspective. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just out here.
No, that's real. I definitely mess with the just cause part because it's like, and I just really love the place that you've reached because it's funny. Like I said, I was watching the old interview, and even in being in this one, there's just there's a calmness, there's a confidence, and there's an essence of being settled.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
there. That
Yeah.
it wasn't so much that it was like absent in the last interview. It's just very clear that you've seen some things, you've experienced some things, and when it comes to your work, when it comes to how you feel about yourself, you're just there. Like it's just
Yeah.
cause that essence, that vibe, like definitely comes off. So it's really cool to see. It's really cool to
Yeah,
see.
no, I appreciate it. I think that's something that has to be grown into. Like you have to like be patient with yourself to get to that point.
Real.
But you just have to recognize it's there, and not that it's a lazy trait, but it's like I don't put too much pressure on myself as much as I used to nowadays.
Yeah.
So I think that's just important as a creative to just flow.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's real. Well, y'all heard it here, folks. Y'all need to just flow.
Just flow.
Just
Like,
be.
Just go with the
You know
flow.
what I'm saying?
You good. It's all gonna work out, I promise.
But no, thank you so much. Between all the technical difficulties of today, y'all will have no idea by the end of this
But we
episode.
got it done.
But we got it done. We made it work. But thank you so much for just agreeing to come back and be a part of this
and
series.
thank you. This is dope, and it's so necessary for us to highlight one another. Little do you know, your interview helped build my confidence of just like being a creative, talking about what I had going on, and just having the space to share perspective. So, shout out to you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Definitely means a lot. I always hope that I'm doing something with the space that I'm trying to create, and you know, if I'm being transparent, some days I don't know. Not that I ever think that it's a lost cause, but sometimes I'm just not sure if the space is appreciated in the way that, like, you know, I hope it is and that I want
And
it to
that's
be.
normal
So
when you care about something. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this has been another episode in this Evolution of Dreams installment. If you have not caught up with everything that this wonderful creative is doing, please do buy that Revolution deck. If you haven't, I got mine.
Only got a few left.
But I got mine. But she has so much more for y'all to be tapped into. So just make sure you're checking in. But until the next episode and until the next time, I'll catch y'all. Peace.